language, you are truly embedded in that. Why, especially when you watch Bollywood films as well, love is a very central theme to pretty much, it could be an action film. It is still at the center of love. Man is fighting over a woman on motorbikes and things like that. Why is love such a central theme?
Two things. One, of course, you said there's so much diversity, there's so much celebration. That's because you're made up of spirit, and spirit loves celebration. Aren't we happy when we celebrate?
Really?
So that's our basic nature. So when we get in touch with our basic nature through celebration, we are very happy, and happiness is at the core of our heart. And yes, Bollywood portrays emotions, love, as also so Hollywood. But love is not just an emotion. Of course, it's lived as an emotion, but you are beyond that. Many a times we see people heartbroken because they didn't so-called finally get their love. That's not true. Your basic nature is love. You're made up of a substance called love. So don't live it as an event. Live it as life, and you'll be happier.
Wow, I have so many questions there. You're listening to Capital 100.4 FM, Harada's Happy. We want to talk about something that's very fascinating, connected with today, and the ambassador had already started highlighting something that's key about today's celebration. And maybe before we even talk about some of the themes that are central to India and your love for, the human body, your connectedness to nature, the art of living, happiness. Talk to us a little bit more about today. You were saying today was the day that Buddha experienced enlightenment, you said?
Yes, that's right. It's also the day of his birth. It was 2,586 years ago that he took birth. It was 623 BC. And so we are celebrating because he gave so much to humanity. He gave teachings. Those days when people were, maybe in India was very prosperous in those days, and when people were just running after businesses and enjoyment, he mulled over the facts of life. What is life? He was himself a prince, and he left in search of the truth. So he came up with some principles. These are known as sermons or teachings. So he said that there is suffering in the world, that's because of the desire. And there is a way out of the suffering. You can get out of the desire. And then he gave a 8-way path how to get out of it. So it was spirituality, if you say it. And we've had sages. India is always known as the land of spirituality, apart from Bollywood and IT now. India is also known as the land of yoga, meditation, spirituality. So yes, that's why this day is very significant for anybody on the path of spirituality.
So when you say spirituality, Ambassador, how do you understand what spirituality is? Because I think from an African perspective, from a European perspective, an American perspective, the spirituality is a word we all know, but I wonder if it means the same thing.
Yes, we all recognize it. It's only that we need probably an understanding about it, but it's something more than just intellectual understanding. We are not just the body. You're sitting here, you're the body. But the body is nothing without the breath. And breath, even if you have the breath, you're nothing without the mind. It's the mind which makes you speak, which makes you do things. And then mind is governed in turn by intellect. Okay, then you have memory, and then you have ego. But beyond all that, when a person leaves, we say he or she has left. There's something which was life itself, the spirit, which when leaves, we say the person has left. So anything connected with understanding yourself, the basic constituent of who you are. Okay, the body, we are the body, but suppose something happens to my hand or, arm. I'm still the body. I'm still Vijay. But when something happens to the spirit leaves a living being, then the living being is not there. Before that, even if the mind is little bit here and there, or the intellect is not very sharpened, or the memory is not very good, you still exist. But without the spirit, you don't exist. So spirituality is knowing what you basically are. What is, that's what it is.
So when you think about the spirit of a human being, right, what constitutes the spirit, do you think?
spirit has its attributes. As I said, you are made up of a substance called love. So the attribute of spirit is being happy, celebrating, loving. You know, you see animals around you, pets, how they rush to welcome you when you come after a long time.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So everywhere, anything that you see in creation is made up of the spirit, or you can say made up of love, and it exhibits in different ways.
Yeah. It's Capital 100.4 FM, Harare's Heartbeat. We are spending time with His Excellency, the Indian Ambassador to Zimbabwe. And I'm sure most of the time when you hear ambassador, you think, ooh, governance issues, which is great, right? You think, ooh, foreign policy, which is also great. You also think bilateral agreements, which is also great. But there's something peculiar about Vijay, and that's also why he's here this morning. And I'm sure you can really tell from his awareness of spirituality, his understanding of how a human being is not just a human being, right? There's a little bit more about who you are, including your sense of awareness. But also something that's interesting about India is how they came up with what they call Ayurveda. I hope I said that right. And for thousands of years, Ayurveda has been empowering people for them to take control of their health and their well-being. It's about preventing, it's about maintaining, it's even about treatment. And in fact, it's as a philosophy, it's based on the idea that your mind, your body, and the environment are but connected. And we want to understand a little bit more about the science of life, and that's part of the reason why the ambassador is here this morning. So let's talk a little bit more about Ayurveda. And interestingly, it looks like Ayurvedic tourism is becoming a big thing, especially in India. Why?
That's true. You know, Ayurveda is very simple terminology. It means biology. Ayur means life, and Veda means knowledge. So the knowledge about life is Ayurveda. And it is, I can tell you something basic about Ayurveda. You know, every human being is made up of 5 things. The earth element. You know, whatever you eat comes from earth. The body is made up of substance from the earth, and it goes back into earth, right? Then there's water. 70% of our life is, of the body is water. Then there is air element. And then there is fire element. You know, you maintain a certain degree of temperature in the body, right? So there is fire element. And then there is the space element. So Ayurveda takes into account that all these elements should be balanced in your body. Well, the space element and the water element, they basically don't change much in composition. But it may be some disturbance in the fire element or the air element or the earth element. Ayurveda aims to balance that, because if they are in imbalance, you get a disease. For example, if you are more of fire element, you may be having hypertension. If you are more of earth element, you may not be able to move. You may be very lethargic. And if you are more of air element, you may have, you know, bones which are not very solid. So you may be prone to breaking your bones. The aim of Ayurveda is to keep you in balance. When you are in balance, your mind is happy, healthy. The body is happy, healthy. And you work in a balanced way, you take rest in a balanced way, you eat in a balanced way. So that's the purpose of Ayurveda.
It's interesting you mentioned balance there. What do you think causes balance? Like what is balance? When you say I'm a balanced human being, obviously it's to say equal parts of earth, fire, but what does that mean?
Have you had 3-4 cups of coffee on any given day?
Yes, I used to when I was younger.
How did you feel after having 4 or 5 cups?
Lots of energy.
Lots of energy, and maybe anger.
Maybe anger.
Yes. If you continue having 3-4 cups, 5 cups of coffee, you know, it increases the fire element in you. I'm not against coffee. But if you take beyond that, so sometimes the food itself causes imbalance. Then the climatic conditions or the weather may cause imbalance. In winters, you generally have more of air element in the body. So people break their bones more in the months of winter. Right? So you can balance it, you know, take a lot of ginger. So that's one way of getting rid of the air element.
or take little herbs here and there. There are many herbs. We call them supplements.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are called medicines, but they are basically herbs. So Ayurveda bases their treatment on natural substances available.
So interestingly, when we look at India, it being so embedded in its culture, its heritage, and I keep coming back to things like language and your dress, for thousands of years suggests that there have been some people who've been gatekeepers, right? Especially when we're looking even at things at Ayurveda in itself, right? There are researchers that are involved. There are stakeholders that are involved. How did you manage to get so organized as a people to make sure that you are able to have these things documented and that there's a reference point? I'm saying this because in Africa, we're often accused of being people who don't document their things. So a lot is lost, but not with India.
Yes, in India, from the time even when the writing skills were not there, people would memorize.
Right.
Thousands and thousands of books they would just memorize right from childhood. In fact, there have been times when whole libraries with thousands or millions of books have been burnt. There have been invaders. But whenever people saw that danger, they took out the relevant books and made the children memorize all of them. And then again wrote. They say when Alexander came, then he wanted to take away all the books because he wanted the knowledge.
Right.
So overnight the kids were made to memorize everything.
Wow.
And then next morning they told him, you want to take the books? Take them.
Because we already have it internalized.
Yes,
right.
Internalized.
And often we've actually criticized ourselves as Africans to say, well, everything that we have is oral. But what we seem to forget that if it's oral, it means it's internalized.
Yes.
Wow, I've just had a light bulb moment there.
Yeah, and something which is beneficial you keep in mind, even if you don't have in the format in which it may have been available, say, a few centuries ago, but the crux of what is useful, you always remember.
Right.
So yoga, Ayurveda, medicine, meditations, or pranayamas, breathing exercises, they are so useful. People have been doing it for centuries, and even if the numbers may have gone down here and there, some people in the cities may have forgotten for a while.
Yeah.
But they come back to it because the life demands that you go back to your roots.
Right. You just mentioned the yoga, you just mentioned meditation there. And for most people, when we see this, we're like, oh, this is some spiritual stuff. We're not delving into that because we don't understand this. And this is very foreign. But just looking through even the window, when you see someone sitting on a yoga mat, when someone is doing meditation in a garden, there's a sense of calmness, right, that there's coming about them from the movements. And some of those yoga poses are weird the heck. But you can see there is a sense of calmness, stillness that they are inspiring. Walk us through that. What is the power in meditation, in yoga, which also Buddha was very connected to, right?
That's right. So the word yoga means union. It means you should feel the connection which is already there. We are so disorganized sometimes that our mind is all over the place. We are not in the present moment. We don't know what we are talking about. We don't know what we are eating. We don't know what we are how we are behaving in society. So yoga gives you that awareness. When you are aware of what's happening in the mind, when you are aware of how your intellect is behaving, how your memory is, then you have that sense of union. Similarly, when you have that internal union, you feel the external union as well.
Right.
As I said, we are made up of 5 elements, and those 5 elements are just outside us. Earth element, we eat from the earth. Air element. So yes, you mentioned that some weird poses. Well, that's, to the first principle, which there was a sage called Patanjali. He gave principles of yoga, Yoga Sutras. And the first principle he gave was that sthiram sukham asanam, whatever you can do being steady and comfortably, that is an yoga asana. So you don't need to do, if you are not able to, it's not that you have to twist your body in ways which hurts you, which is not even comfortable for you. So do as much as you can, and the purpose is to bring calmness to the mind. You see people calm because that's the very purpose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you missed out the word pranayama.
I couldn't say it, that's why I left it out. But I could see it, but I was like, oh, I'm going to butcher this one.
So prana is the life force energy that you have inside, and you get it in various ways, including from breath, right? And there is a way to increase that energy through breathing only. And the more energy you have, the better you feel.
Right.
Okay, and breath is also connected to your emotions. So the purpose is twofold: one, to increase your energy, and second, to bring your emotions to a reasonable balanced level. If you are angry and you realize how your breath flows, you would be seeing that it flows very fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
So generally in India, if somebody is angry, they just say, take a deep breath in and slowly breathe out.
Yeah.
And in one or two breaths, that emotion goes away.
Yeah. And in fact, when you think of panic attacks and
Anxiety also.
you're having shortness of breath.
Breath, yeah. So you mentioned art of living. So in art of living, there is a technique called Sudarshan Kriya, which makes you use your breath to have more control over the mind. From the level of the mind, at the intellectual level, it's not possible to control the mind or the emotions. But through breath, because with each emotion, the breathing pattern changes.
Yeah.
So by changing the breathing pattern, you can have more say over your mind.
Right. Like when you're sad, you sigh.
Yeah, your breath is not going in. You seem to choke when you are sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
You feel something at the pit of the throat.
Yeah.
So the breathing pattern changes with each emotion. When you are happy, you don't even realize the breath is going deep in and out.
Yeah. It's 10:33 on Capital 100.4 FM Harare Zapi. We're talking to His Excellency Ambassador Vijay Khanduja. He's the Indian ambassador to Zimbabwe, and we're talking about the art of living, the art of happiness, if I can put it that way. And he's talking to us just about spirituality, awareness. Today is an important day on the Indian calendar, but I think the art of happiness is a universal desire. It is a universal thing. I think we're all in pursuit of being calm. And it's funny we're talking about this because on Tuesday on our book show, we're also talking about The Majesty of Calmness, which is also another book that's 100 years old. And you are teaching us this morning that breath in itself is connected to our emotions, right? If you're angry, you're breathing faster. If you're sad, you're having shortness of breath.
That's right.
So how do we live in a state where we are calm, right? So my totem is a zebra, and they often say penga madube, because the zebra, not the actual animal, but in totemism, she is known for being angry, and when she's angry, she can do the most. In fact, angry is being polite. She can get furious. She can be short-tempered. And so how do we live in that state where madube and penga madube, you are calm, you are, whatever situation you're going through, you're in control of your emotions, which is control of your breathing, right?
Yes, I agree. But let me put it, give you a different perspective in that the emotions per se are not bad. It's okay to get angry. It's okay to feel sad. But if that becomes so ingrained that you are stuck with it, suppose a moment has come which requires you to be angry. It's okay to be angry. But if you are not able to sleep the whole night after that, that's the cause of problem.
Right.
So all these techniques which are given either by way of yoga or pranayama or meditation, they are there to make you get over that moment. A moment would always give you emotions. And it's okay to live the emotions, but for a reasonable period of time. It should not be that several years after the incident has taken place, it's still etched in your memory and you are not peaceful or calm inside. You may not remember which dress you wore, say, a month ago. Do you remember exactly on this day a month ago what were you wearing? Or what you had eaten by way of lunch or dinner? But there are some incidents in life which you are not able to forget. Even if they took place 1 year ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. It's only that we should not be disturbed beyond a reasonable time. We should be able to get over the emotion in 1 or 2 days maximum, 3 days. If there is sadness, somebody close of mind would be there. You would be able to prioritize. First I have to do this, second I have to do that.
Right.
You would be able to make a schedule on how to go about things and not miss any important things, because there would be clarity. Otherwise, one thought would toss you towards paying the electricity bill, the other thought would toss you to the studio, the third toss would toss you to the traffic on the street.
Yeah.
And nothing would happen. You'd immediately feel drained without doing anything.
Yes. Yes. It's Capital 100.4 FM Harare Zabik. No, it's not Sadhguru in Zimbabwe. It's really just His Excellency the Ambassador Vijay from India to Zimbabwe. He's in studio this morning and he's talking to us about the art of happiness, the art of living. And he's talking about how every breath that you and I make is connected to every emotion. And did you try that breathing exercise? I certainly did, and I'm sure you can even hear my voice. I sound much calmer. Normally I am speaking so quickly, and yet I felt that. And as I was doing the breathing exercise, I was seeing myself in some sort of like a cosmic environment, in the stars. I don't know, that was just me. Question that's come in here, I don't know if this one is in your forte, Your Excellency. Can you talk about how to forgive yourself? This is a listener that's asking. That's a great question, I think.
Okay. Well, normally we think, or we don't forgive or forget, thinking we would be doing somebody else a favor. Right? What happens if you are not able to forgive somebody else? Do you think it affects the person in the night whom you are not forgiving?
No.
It affects whom?
Me.
Yeah, the person who is not able to forgive. So who would you do the favor if you forgive that person? Not that person. You'd be doing yourself a favor.
Yeah.
An incident has happened. Mistake can happen from anybody. Or an instance. Life is made up of so many events and instances. To hold on to one instance out of million other instances is not a very wise thing to do. And generally our memory holds on to the negative. Have you realized? If somebody insults you, you would hold on to it.
Yes.
Somebody gives you a compliment, you will forget in next 2 hours.
Yes, correct.
So that is not a very wise thing to do. Hold on to the compliment, not the negativity.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are doing yourself a disservice. You are increasing your blood pressure, you are having insomnia, not able to sleep. For whose sake? For your sake, you just completely forgive the other person and try and forget about the incident.
So for me, that concept of forgiveness is one that baffles me, Your Excellency. I'll tell you why. Because it's easier said than done, right? If somebody has killed my mother, for example, what does that mean when you say forgive that person? Because it hurts. I've been betrayed. I'm in pain. So what exactly is forgiveness? What is it that you're actually doing when you're forgiving?
Again, I know it's a very sensitive topic. It can be interpreted in 2 ways. But as I said, does not forgiving that person, law should take its own course. He would be punished if he has done something wrong. But now that the event has happened, does it give you any solace to hold your emotions tied only to one person or one instance? Isn't
your whole
it?
Energy is
Your whole energy. Yeah. And the person who has done wrong or bad thing to anybody else, how he or she would be feeling?
fine.
No. Any culprit has somebody, crying for justice inside. So they are troubled inside. That's why they behave bad with society. So we should try and bring their emotions also to some sort of sanity.
Wow.
So in fact, Art of Living doesn't do just the programs for the people outside, but they have done so many programs in jails all over the world, in India, in US, here in Zimbabwe. And we find that after doing, those techniques, after getting over their own stresses, they start crying because they know the incident has happened which was not good. It was the spur of the moment, the anger of the moment which made them take that drastic step, and they regret it all through. They are never comfortable.
Wow.
How would you feel if you make a mistake?
terrible.
Yeah, so they also feel the
Regret.
same way.
Wow, I love what you said there, that the cries of justice
Yeah.
from the person they wronged won't let them be at
Yeah.
peace. They are also troubled.
They are very much troubled.
Gosh. Question, is it forgiving or letting go? Is it not that one forgives someone who has asked for forgiveness? Forgiveness and letting go.
I think the two are connected, very much connected. You know, when you let go, you'll forget about it, and it's sort of forgiveness, isn't it?
Which one is more important, do you think? The letting go or the forgiving?
It depends which situation you are. If you are troubled by something which doesn't involve somebody else, then it's just let go. If it involves somebody else, then better forgive and forget about it,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes. All right. This has been really illuminating. So we know November 2018, India and Zimbabwe were dotting lines on a memorandum of understanding that we'd work hand in hand in the field of traditional systems and medicine and homeopathy. How did this partnership, as far as you can tell, Ambassador, come to being?
Well, if you see the whole world, Ayurveda is gaining currency because number one, it's effective. Number two, it is very natural, and number three, it's low cost. So from whichever angle you see, no side effects. So this is gaining currency. You go to the Western world, you'd see a number of Ayurveda products. So why not Zimbabwe or any other country?
Yeah.
And it could be a two-way street. You know, a number of herbs could be grown here
Yeah.
and used in India for making either the tablets or even the formulations can be made here. So it's a wide, diverse field which should be tapped, and not much has happened after the signing of the MOU, but there are some private players who would be coming here, and I would want it also to be at the level of the government. In India, we have a separate ministry
Yes, you
of
do.
traditional medicine.
Minister
It's called the
of
Ministry of Ayush.
Yes.
And people use it in daily life. They don't rush for chemical formulations
Yes.
in the form of antibiotics or medicines. So to the extent possible, they use these medicines, and with research, more and more purity is being attained, and more effectiveness is being attained.
Yeah. India, China, those are some of the countries that are more inclined to look inward in terms of healing, in terms of medicine, than they do westward. In other words, you're less likely to get an antibiotic, a paracetamol. You're more likely to look for a herb. You're more likely to look for a traditional remedy
True.
before you go to the pharmacy to see a doctor.
That's true. That's true, because a lot of things can be cured even with lifestyle changes. You do little yoga and your bones would become strong. You would not have pain in the neck or pain in the back.
Yeah.
Your muscles would get strengthened.
Yeah.
Your body would have more flexibility. Your heart would be functioning better, and your immunity would go high. So these things allow you to enjoy life better. You use yoga or meditation or pranayama for getting the energy, getting health, and being able to enjoy life better. The word healing or health, the root word is to be healed, healing. So heal means you have to be sick before getting healed, right? So it involves sickness. But the word for health in India, in Hindi language or Sanskrit language, is swasthya. Swasthya means to be established within yourself. Swa means self, and sthaya means to be established.
Right. Because you're focusing more on the person and not
So
the
suppose you're
disease.
physically happy, healthy, but your mind is not in your control. How would you feel?
You're not okay.
You're not okay. It may not be visible to outside, but you will not be comfortable, and sooner or later it would lead to physical ailments. Your heart may start malfunctioning, you'll have more acidity in your tummy, or you may have hypertension. So it manifests the moment the mind goes all over.
Yeah.
So best is to bring the mind to an established state.
Right. So between this partnership that India has about traditional medicines, what do you think we as private players, let me speak as private players, how do we as Zimbabwe learn from India what you have done, because you've protected the legacy of your natural meds? You didn't wait for anyone to test any of your spices and your herbs for them to be important to you, right? We, Africa, when we had COVID, still baffling the world why Africa didn't succumb to as much COVID as might have been predicted because of poor health services, blah, 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 blah. But we did extremely well.
I agree.
And that's probably because of our diet and our natural remedies that we have, Zumbani being one of those.
That's
Even though it hasn't been taken to a lab and came out with the results to say, oh yeah, this is the reason why Zumbani works. But for us, it works.
Yes, it works, and more research would be needed. Many years later, we have been eating, for example, turmeric for millennia. And recently, scientists have extracted curcuma and other substances which they say cure cancer and cure this disease or that disease. So it's a question of research. The more research, and that's where the international partnerships are helpful. For example, we in India, now we're documenting a lot of things. So why not in Africa? So these partnerships are not one way, but two way. You will learn a lot. How to, keep track of how to do the research, how to, have the patent, the drugs or the medicines or the herbs patented. And then it leads to building up on that.
Yeah. So, final question as you are coming to an end of our meditation for today. How do we as Zimbabweans participate in this from a private sector point of view in this bilateral agreement, whether it's the research, whether it's the knowledge sharing, whether it's exchanging of notes? How do we get involved, would you say?
I don't think you are constrained by government to government agreements, whether they are in place or not, because private sector can do a lot learning from other countries. All these herbs are countering, for example, to South Africa, Nigeria, bigger economies here, Kenya, Tanzania, even Zimbabwe. You do find some of them, but not to the extent you find in bigger economies. So, one can establish Ayurveda health center with some basic herbs and some physician, and the diagnostics are also very simple. We call it pulse diagnosis. So the physicians in India, they just check your pulse and forewarn you that, look, if you don't change the diet to this or that, air element is more, or the fire element is more, or the earth element is more, and you need to balance it. Otherwise, you're likely to get a few diseases.
Yeah.
So just modifying, a little bit on the diet herb level, you find the body is functioning much better. It's like, taking the car for a servicing.
Yeah, got you.
And some oils, for example, the massages, people are suffering from migraines and this and that. There are special therapies whereby, the oil is dropped on your forehead and you feel permanent relief.
Yeah.
Of course, I am not just, blindly advocating, but there have been a number of instances where people have traveled to India for Ayurveda treatment and have got phenomenal results. If you check former Kenyan Prime Minister's daughter, she got her eyesight back from near blindness. It's Rosemary Odinga. You can search for it and see for yourself on Google. The story is very viral.
Wow.
So,
and healthcare is very cheap in India.
Yes, healthcare is very affordable and effective. I'm not again saying that you should not go for the modern medicine, because many a times that's much more relevant. So do make a choice. If you have an alternate, why not?
Yeah. Even the word modern gives a certain, I don't think the word modern is the right word, because it gives a certain...
Or allopathic.
Yeah, it gives a downgrade to what we know works. And if we know it works, it works.
It works, that's right.
That is the voice of His Excellency Ambassador Vijay Khanduja, Indian Ambassador to Zimbabwe. And we're talking this morning about the art of living. Breathing for your emotions, and your emotions for your breathing. Feedback, somebody actually says, I did the exercise and it felt good. So we want to do some more of this, Ambassador. How did you say we can be a part of art of living if we want to do more of these exercises?
Yeah. You do search for Art of Living on Google, Zimbabwe, and there are many teachers here in Harare, in Bulawayo, in other places, and do get in touch with them. And there's a lot of, you can find how to do alternate nostril breathing, which we just did, or Bhastrika. Bhastrika is instant energy. So if you just say Bhastrika and Art of Living, you can learn how to get instant energy also. But more than that, this course which you would do over 3 days with any of the teachers or meditation programs, they'd be much more helpful. They take you much deeper, and it's deeper cleansing at your level.
And you said tomorrow is you said I Meditate Africa, did you say?
I Meditate Africa tomorrow at 15:30 here, Zimbabwe time.
Where do we find them? Online, I think
online,
you said?
YouTube. If you go to Art of Living or Shri Shri Ravi Shankar YouTube channel, sitting at the comfort of your home, you can do that.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for coming in this morning. I certainly feel lighter. I don't know if I'm the only person that feels this way. It's like, wow, there's something there about our breathing as well as our emotions. The art of living. That's what we're talking about this morning, courtesy of His Excellency, who came all the way to the studio this morning to help us get closer to ourselves. Imagine if we drove this way, right? When you see someone cutting you off and you breathe, just breathe, how much better we would be as Zimbabwe. It's Capital 100.4 FM. Harare's Upbeat News is coming up.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Pleasure being here. Thanks.